Hi, this is Professor Nelson, Kim Nelson. Another tutorial for basic Rhino. Going to be doing our loft exercise using the loft command to create a simple ring form. As with all rings, we will start with drawing a ring bore, standard ring bore, 17 millimeters in diameter. Going to offset that ring bore 2.5 millimeters. Going to move it up using a relative movement so I can pick anywhere I want. Going to constrain the distance 0.5 millimeters. Going to constrain the direction with ortho and click. And that's the basic profile for my ring. Going to make a copy of this and another one. Copying and pasting outside of Rhino, although I could have, for this purpose, pulled it from inside just as well. In fact, this last one, I'll copy and paste both of these and move them over, like so. Going to apply history and mirror to the other side. Okay, and that'll get us started. When you're doing a loft command, how it's going to behave depends on what you set it to do and how many curves are involved. So for starters, I'll take these two curves. Loft surface is right here. Make sure your seam is straight. By the way, we would normally move our seam down to the bottom on these using this curve edit tools, adjust close seam. In fact, I will go ahead and do that. But only on one side. No point doing it on both. Curve, edit tools, adjust close seam. Going to pull these down to the quadrant at the bottom. Rhino loves to put the seam on a circle on this side. It just happens to be about the worst place when you're making a ring to have a seam. Okay, there. I changed the seam back to where we were. Loft. If I have just the two curves, check the seam, make sure the arrows are pointing the right direction. And hit enter. It will give me a standard, what they call a ruled surface with a straight cross section. Okay. If I do the same exercise with three curves, the default will change. To where Rhino evaluates and creates its own cross-section, a curved cross-section. There is a setting, however. You can choose how this plays out. That's the normal. I can choose straight sections, hit preview, which would give me this, okay? I can pick tight, which will give me the curves a little more emphasis so it's not as soft and rounded. I can pick loose. This will let it fall away from the curves so that Rhino can make just the softest, simplest surface possible. I've never found a use for that, to be honest with you. Uniform. Each one is slightly different, but for our purposes we're only going to use normal or straight sections. Okay. So that's with 3 curves. But we can do things that are a lot more complex than that. For example, record history, loft command, okay. It's going to give me this. You'll see how it kind of swells out. No, tide is not going to help that. No, because it uses, it's like a control point. When you have information tight together, it gives you a slight swelling. So as we develop this, I'm going to go to straight sections. Okay. Now if I move that section, or if I scale this section going into the front C-plane, scale from its bottom quadrant, you can see how I can begin to develop this further. Okay. Alright, the point is just to experiment with it. Now I can go ahead and re-loft it. You want to pick the curves in order. And this time with a normal section. Okay. And I can see that that gives me a softer effect. I should have my history recorded. What if I want to combine them? If I wanted to combine them, I would do separate lofts. Make these straight sections. Make these normal. Okay. Take this loft, record history, mirror it over. Okay. Let's say that we wanted to taper it. There are a couple of ways I could go about that. One would be to rebuild. I'll take it 16:4. Turn on the points. Go into my right C-plane so I have a more direct access to them. And by moving those points, be very careful which ones you pick. Okay. You can see over here that I missed, actually for this kind of control point editing, it's actually one of the few times it would be advisable to work in the orthographic view, because I can be sure to pick my points symmetrically all the way across. Okay. That's one way. Join these together. And copy this outside of Rhino with Control C. And then I'll undo. Back to our straight version. Paste that back in. Move it using Grid Snap so it's a couple steps away, so we can still see it. Another way we can taper this is to go into the right view once again and draw a curve. Quad is fine. Turn off my Grid Snap. I'm going to snap to the bottom here. I also want to project this so that I'm picking directly onto the C-plane. Okay. I'm going to take that curve and scale it from its midpoint. I just turned off project, by the way, so that it's bigger than my ring. Okay. I'm going to copy that outside of Windows, outside of Rhino for a minute. Turn on the points. There are only two of them. Grab the bottom point. And move it straight over. Now I'll paste that original line back in. I'm going to do what's called flow. I'm going to pick my three curves. I'm going to flow them along a curve, starting. And actually, before I do this, first I'm going to record history. I'm going to hit copy equals no. Grab the straight curve. Having a tough time, sorry. Objects to flow along curve. Copy equals no. Base curve. Target curve. Okay. That tapered it according to these curves. It flowed it from the straight line of this curve to the taper of that curve. And if I record history when I'm doing it, it'll do that again. But now I should be able to turn on the points or rebuild this curve. 3, 4 are ideal for a curve, smooth curve. Turn on the points. And broke history. I'm not sure why, but I did. Try it one more time before I give up, because we do have to move on. Pick my curves. Record history. Flow along curve. From the base curve to the target. Turn on the points. Okay. I'm having a challenge with the history. I won't go more into it at this point. Just to say that you can do that, that is an option that you have. Okay? Would like a little less severe curve. So I'll just go ahead and adjust it here. Okay, so we have this. We can of course do a loft to fill in the center. Okay. Which would give us a closed off ring. Another choice we have would be, you see a lot of comfort fit bands lately. Okay. So if I take this curve, front C-plane, and I do a 2D scale, right click. That way it won't change the taper much. If I take that out a little bit, my loft updates accordingly. Now I can take this center curve, copy paste it. Actually, better than to do that would be to put a copy of this onto my clipboard, redo, paste it back in, and move it under a little bit. Mirror it over. Okay. Now that I've done that, I can remove those lofts and do another one. Starting with this curve, this curve, this curve, the inside curve, opposite side, okay, enter, and enter. And you will see that that has given me a soft curve. However, I don't like what it did there in the middle, so do it one more time. It would like to pick the edges of the surface. In order. This time I will grab that center curve. Last time I didn't. I'm sorry. My mouse is dying. That's a Wacom issue. The Wacom mice do not last very long. And this one's on its way out. So, it misbehaves. I picked... Okay. Yes. That's better. And bring back our other surface. And that gives me kind of a... Actually, it's creating a strange surface on the inside. But you see what I'm trying to do and not having much success at. If I want to keep that straight in the center, then I'm going to need to do a loft with two curves. And then a loft with 3. And that'll give me that comfort fit band that I want. Mirror it over. Turn off the curves. Join it together. And done. Okay. So, that's a fairly effective little design. Go ahead and play with this. Develop a ring with it for me as part of your homework this week. Thanks for watching.